We just announced the release of a breakthrough landmark bipartisan bill in the Senate that is going to fund Ukraine, Israel, humanitarian assistance in Gaza and all around the world, as well as make changes at our southern border to help better manage the flow of people who are coming to the United States to apply for asylum. This is a really big deal. It's a really big deal because Ukraine badly needs funding. We can't let Russia win this war. But it's also a big deal because the border has been chaotic. It has been out of control. The asylum system has been broken for decades. And bipartisan immigration and border reform is long overdue. And so this is a real opportunity for Republicans and Democrats in the Senate to show that we can work together to try to give the president new tools to better manage the border. And so I want to talk to you just for a second about what some of these changes are when it comes to border policy. The first thing we do is to reform a really broken asylum approval process. That's the reason most people are coming to the United States at the southern border. They're applying for asylum. That means they're coming here to the United States to flee violence or terror or torture or persecution. The problem is that that process of approving an asylum claim, it takes upwards of 10 years. That's not fair to anybody. But there's also a problem because a lot of the folks that are coming here to apply for asylum actually are economic migrants. They're actually just coming here to work. And so our bill does two things. One, it dramatically reforms the asylum process, so we shrink the amount of time that it takes to process a claim from 10 years down to about 6 months. But we're also going to do a better job of screening migrants at the border so that we make sure the people who do come into the country are the ones that are most likely to actually get their asylum claim approved. The second thing we do here is to give the president the power to better manage the border because, as you know, there have been days when we've had 9,000, 10,000 people showing up at the border. We just don't have the resources to handle that number of people entering the country every day. So what we did is give the president a limited authority to shut down asylum claims in between the land ports of entry. A land port of entry is a place like El Paso. So that when the numbers of crossings are really high, we funnel people who want to apply for asylum to those ports of entry where we can do it in a more manageable, more humane way. We're never going to shut down asylum processing, but we are going to make sure that it's done in a more expeditious manner. Now, there's also in this bill some really important reforms that help migrants. One of them is quicker work permits. A lot of the reason you see immigrants who are coming here to apply for asylum living on the street or packed in homeless shelters is because they can't work immediately when they get to the United States. This bill fixes that. For almost everybody that comes to apply for asylum, they're going to get a near immediate work permit. The second thing this bill does is just give more non-asylum pathways for people to come to the United States. This bill includes 250,000 new visas, work visas, and family reunification visas for folks to come to the country through the visa program. And then lastly, this bill really focuses in on the most vulnerable people who are crossing the border, and that's kids. As you know, there are a lot of unaccompanied minors who show up at the southern border. These are 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds who make the journey to the United States all by themselves. For the first time under this bill, we are going to require that the government appoint and pay for a lawyer for every single one of those little kids. Can you imagine how terrifying it must be to be sitting in a hearing room applying for asylum as an 8-year-old without anybody standing and sitting next to you arguing on your behalf? We fixed that as part of this bill. It's just the right thing to do. So I want to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what's in this bill that's going to help us better manage the border, that's going to help us fix a broken asylum system, and is going to act more compassionately to the people that we really do want to wrap our arms around who are legitimately coming to this country to flee terrible circumstances back home. This is an opportunity. For decades, immigration has been one of these issues that divides Republicans and Democrats. This bill, the headline will be that it funds Ukraine. That's really important. But it's also an opportunity for our two parties in the Senate to come together, around a series of changes to our asylum, border, and immigration policy that's going to help better manage the border and create a more efficient, fair system. I really hope that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle in the Senate will support this legislation.